to the road to 50 million. I put an interesting title on this one yesterday, and I picked this picture in the background of someone with their head in their hands. Yesterday is a beautiful, beautiful song written by the Beatles. Nearly everyone knows it, and it talks about something happening yesterday. Things were going well, and then yesterday, all my troubles seemed so far away, and now it looks like they're here to stay. And it's interesting in that song how fast things change. Yesterday, things were okay, and today they're not. And most of the time, that change is in our head. Sometimes it's precipitated by an external event, and sometimes not. Now, in the song, it seems to be there's a relationship breakup, and there's some sadness on the part of the person singing the song. But anyway, I wrote this because yesterday was yesterday for me. I last night I made the video yesterday morning about compassion, and those of you that most of you know what it's like to have days where you just want to give up, where you want to quit, where you think what you're doing doesn't work, doesn't matter, nobody appreciates it, it's never going to, get traction or whatever it is. There's lots of ways to think about it. And I felt like that last night. Most of the time when people ask me how I'm doing, my answer, truthfully, is really good. Sometimes I say just right. Sometimes I'll say outrageous because I feel like that. I feel really blessed and lucky to have the life that I have. Last night, for some reason, I just was I was really struggling with, whether or not what I'm doing even matters and whether or not I'll ever reach my goals and all the rest of it, and it was visceral and it was real, and I felt very depressed. And those of you that know anything about my history know that that's been a very, very serious thing for me for decades, starting in my teens and untreated and not doing anything about it till I was in my 50s. Anyway, the reason I wanted to talk about this today is because, number one, it happened, and two, I think it's pretty common. I think it's pretty common for us to have days, maybe an hour, maybe a day, maybe even longer, where somehow it's like we're wearing different glasses. Somehow things look dark and they don't look like they did a minute ago, a day ago, and really frustrating. And I'll be specific. For me, I've got a piece of my ultimate life, a piece of expression that I want to do. And I want you not to hear this about me. I want you to think about your life, because my story may be interesting, but it's not really going to be helpful as much as identifying what this is for you. So there's a piece of my life that I want to do more of, and it's music. It's singing, writing and singing songs. Now, if you look at my Spotify, if you look me up on Spotify, you'll see that I have 82 songs up there. And so you might think, well, Kellan, what are you talking about? What I'm talking about is specifically me singing songs that tell stories from the books that I've written. Now, I've had a love-fear, I was going to say love-hate, but it's not love-hate, I love period, a love-fear relationship with music all my life. I learned to play the piano when I was very young. I can't remember not being able to read music. I learned that when I was very young. I had to practice. That was part of life. So I got to be pretty good on the piano, and I wanted to do music for life. When I was 19 or 20, I decided I wanted to be a musician. I really wasn't sure exactly how, but that's what I wanted to do. It was not okay in my family arrangement. My mom particularly thought that musicians were evil and bad, and maybe it's because we grew up in the San Francisco Bay Area during the time of the hippies and all the rock and roll bands and garage bands everywhere. And so music was unstable and had all kinds of possibilities in it for, ruining families and everything else, and touring on the road and all the stuff that goes with that. And so I opened a recording studio, recorded my own music, and started doing that in the 80s. And I put a couple of albums out, and those are also in the Spotify link. You can hear all that stuff from then. But at some point, the studio got successful enough that I had to make a choice. And the choice I made was to sell it and close it. And I did that because I felt like I was obligated to do what I was, quote, supposed to do. And that decision made that decision in 1992, and that ruined the next 15 years. From 1992 to 2007, my life was a complete split. On one hand, I created a very successful career, and on the other hand, I was very, very unhappy behind the scenes. I ruined my own life, I ruined other people's lives, or contributed to it, ruined relationships, and so forth. So yesterday, was a recurrence of that. And my love fear relationship with music is, even though I had some success and I performed professionally in choirs and stuff, I feel nervous, frightened, weird about singing my songs in public performance. That's a scary thing for me. Last night, it took over, and I was just despondent about my ability to communicate the kind of optimism and hope that I am talking about in the road to 50 million. This whole project is about helping you watching right now discover your gifts and serve with them. Well, I've been blessed with a real substantial gift in music. I play the piano well, I sing, I write good songs, I know how to use the equipment in the studio. Yet to perform those is a scary thing for me. And last night was really painful. And it's as much struggle as I've had for years. Grateful it didn't last more than a few hours, and I went to bed. And I woke up this morning and I was able to sort of recalibrate and rekindle. But I wanted to talk about it because it happens. And when I wrote one of the books I wrote, it's over there in the pile and I could get it, but it'll take too long. I wrote a book called Down from the Gallows. And the reason I wrote that book was it was a sequel to the book I wrote, Tightrope of Depression. So when I started writing books, one of the books I knew I had to write was a book about my struggle with depression, including the addictions and the divorces and just the mess I made out of my life in general, trying to be somebody I wasn't. So I wrote Tightrope, and then I thought I wanted to do something else. It was part of this music yearning. So I wrote 11 songs that told stories from Tightrope, and I published those in an album called Name of the Black, because they were very sad, depressing, struggle, deep, dark songs. And those are on Spotify too, if you care about that. When I got done, I hadn't really intended on writing anymore. I wrote my story and about beginning to heal and so forth. But as soon as I got done, I realized, because like things like last night, yesterday, the truth is that those kinds of feelings of inadequacy, not enough, worry about what people think. I call it witot, what I think others think. Those are real and they go on all the time. So I wrote the sequel called Down from the Gallows, in keeping with the rope theme. And I also wrote music about that. Now I'm writing the last book in that trilogy, which I think will be done next year. And I'm working on that third album. But that's the point here, because using those songs and sharing that with you, or just sharing it because I want to, is the thing that makes me feel like that. Like it's not good enough, it won't be good enough, somebody's gonna not like it. And you know the drill. We all think and feel and worry about those things. So I thought today I would just share what happened last night. I felt that way. I was uncertain if it would ever matter. And I want to express the things that I've experienced and learned in that music. My question for you is, what is it that you want to do that you're scared of? What is it that you want to do and that, like me, you hold yourself back from doing? You're afraid it won't work. You're not smart enough, good enough, too many other obligations. The list of stories is infinite. And I've told them all, and maybe you have too. When those things happen, those feelings, those frightening times, yeah, you gotta, we, you, me, each of us, we gotta do something. We either give in and quit, or we recommit. In order for me to recommit, I gotta go back and this morning, I went back to, what am I trying to do? Why does it matter? Why do I even care? What is the real, most deep driver? And here's the answer, and I'm gonna share my decision and commitment with you. The driver for me to write or to sing is to tell the stories. Not because I think anybody's going to care that much about my own story, but because I'm in hope that the stories will give people encouragement. I get encouragement from reading other people's stories. Stories of struggle, stories of choice, stories of victory. Those kind of stories really light me up. And so I like telling them too. I tell other people's stories. I copy and paste things that I find on different social media that feel like that. And I like telling the stories about my own journeys in hopes that they'll be helpful to others, like those other stories are helpful to me. So, in order for me to get past this, I had to get up this morning and recommit. But before I did that, I had to discover what's the real point here. So, here it is. The point of my writing the songs and sharing them with you, or the books for that matter, but the books aren't hard. That's easy for me. The songs are hard. And that's all in my head. I know that. The point of it is to share and to encourage, to help you find and choose to have the courage to share your gifts, even when it's hard or scary. Here's my commitment, and I've recommitted. I'm going to put a song up every day, including today. And there might be things in it that are wrong. People might hate it. I might get all kinds of negative stuff. Maybe somebody will like it. I don't know. But I'm going to do it. And I'm going to do it because I said so at the base level. But the real reason is maybe it will do two things. One, maybe it will be encouraging for you, especially if you know the backstory. And three, maybe I'll be able to accomplish my objective of one more person on my road to 50 million. Now, in the road to 50 million, I always issue these three invitations. If you're already living a life of prosperity, purpose, real purpose to your life, I'd like to chat, because I love knowing people that are doing that because there's things to do together. Number two, if you're struggling, like I have off and on, and for years before, if you're struggling and you'd like help discovering or serving with your gifts, including turning them into a business or figuring out how to really reach people, then I'd like to help with that also, because I do that. And my struggle with music is just one little piece. But there are many other ways that I do it, and I've learned and overcome all those fears. And number three, if you want to help, I'd love to have you help me reach my 50 million. So this is a kind of a just conversation about yesterday. You know, that song, the feeling, the victory, the recommit, the sadness, the hurt, and how real and painful that is. And that was the reason that I wrote not Tightrope, but Down from the Gallows. The subtitle of that is The Truth, the Myth, and Battles of a Creative with Depression. Because those struggles are real, and at least for me, it doesn't go away. It's something you have to figure out. I have to figure out how to deal with and how to manage, not even manage, but how to reinterpret, how to get strength from it, how to get learning from it. Pressfield calls it the resistance. And for me, it's that, but it's also that deep-seated feeling of, maybe it's not good enough, that has been with me ever since I can remember. I cannot remember in my life not feeling like that. And that may be sad to say, but it's true. I remember his earliest memories in kindergarten and first grade, 4 or 5 years old, those feelings. So that's been a long-standing thing. And I share with that with you today because it happened and because it's possible to recommit, which I have done, and I've done it now publicly. And you look forward, if you're interested, to seeing the song this afternoon. We'll see you tomorrow on the road to 50 million.